with Mazal Moznaim, Libra in English. Yeah. And as I always do, we're going to give a little bit of an introduction. There are 4 elements, and we've covered an example of each one of the elements: earth, water, fire, and air. Aries belonging to the fire element. Then we went on to Gemini, an example of the air element. Taurus, the earth element, Gemini, the air element, then Cancer, the water element. Then we went on to Leo, who is the second example of a fire element. Virgo, the second example of an earth element. And now we're going to discuss Libra, which is the second example of the air element. Aquarius will be the third example of the air element. All the elements have something in common: 3 signs in every one of the elements, right? We have 12 signs in total, 3 signs per element. And the air element is the one that is more sikhli, more mental, whereas the water is the more emotional, the earth is the more practical, down to earth, more conservative. And the fire element was the one that has or demonstrates much more enthusiasm and action and impulsiveness too, right? But each one of the elements, within each element, the 3 signs act somewhat differently. They express themselves somewhat differently, and as we will go through the signs, you will notice the differences. But they all have something in common. I try to bring out some points before we go into the actual sign, and many times the points relate to the sign that we will be talking about. So as an introduction, I'm going to quote some sayings that the rabbis tell us, and you will understand later with the sign why I brought these up. Rabbis tell us, "L'olam yeh adam rach kekaneh, v'lo yeh kashe ke'erez." One should strive to always be as soft as a reed. A reed is soft, growing in the waters, and not be as hard as a cedar wood, which is much tougher and much harder. In other words, in our lives, in dealing with people, we interact with them, whether it's in business or at home, whether it's with our spouse or with our children. We always have the choice, because we do have free will, regardless of how our nature is and what our character may be. We always have the freedom of choice, the free will, to make a decision on how we want to deal with the problem and how we want to approach people. Do we want to be tactful? Do we want to be aggressive? Even though some people by their nature have a tendency to be one way or another, they still have the ability to make a choice. They can decide to yell or not to yell, to be tactful or not. So the rabbis always advise us, it's always better to be softer and not so aggressive, not so hard. Be soft as a reed. A reed is bendable. A reed is adaptable, adjustable, and not hard as a cedar, stubborn, unyielding. You're going to get ahead much more in life, and you will be liked by more people if you're easygoing, if you're not stubborn, if you're not harsh, and not aggressive in the way you communicate and the way you deal with people on a personal level. Very important point to keep in mind. Point number 2, receive everyone with a happy countenance, as the rabbis tell us in Hebrew, L'olam yakdim adam et kol adam b'sever panim yafot. You should always greet every individual, Jew or non-Jew, with a happy countenance. In other words, when you meet people, you may come across as very serious and reserved by nature. So you may have to work on it, that you don't give people the wrong impression that you're cool and uninterested in them. Even though you may not really mean that you're uninterested in them, but you may give that impression by not saying Shabbat Shalom to somebody when you're walking down the street. He may think you're upset at him. He may think you don't like him. He may think you're distant and aloof, even though that may not be true. You're just not used to it. Perhaps you were focused or thinking about something else at the time. But you have to be sensitive to people. Some people are very sensitive, ultra-sensitive, right? And therefore, receive everyone or greet everyone with a happy countenance. Besever panim yafot. Jew or non-Jew alike. And you may have seen it here in LA. Goyim, non-Jews, approach you in the morning. Hi, how you doing? Good morning. He never saw you before, doesn't know who you are, but he has that in his nature. You won't see that in New York. I tried that once in New York, and then you must not be from here, because here we don't talk like that. Yeah. But yeah, in some places, and in the South, in Texas, they're even friendlier, I hear. So that's a good habit to get into, if it's not in your nature, to develop it, to greet everybody with a happy countenance. Point number 3, give everyone the benefit of the doubt. This is one of my favorite sayings. L'olam yadam dan tashini lechav zechut. Always judge him favorably, give him the benefit of the doubt, because you may be mistaken. And the majority of the times, one will be mistaken if you would not have given the benefit of the doubt. Benefit of the doubt means not to be too suspicious, not to look at everyone or everything negatively. Be positive about the situation. Take it in stride. Don't be so tough. And don't be so critical. It could be that the individual, even though he's to blame, they made a mistake. Okay, even if they're to blame, even though it happened, it really did happen, but it could have been a mistake. This third point of giving everybody the benefit of the doubt is really a key to success in husband and wife relationships and everything in life. Because a lot of times we suspect and we accuse as a result of our suspicions, and they're totally unfounded. Lo haya velo nivra, what you were thinking of the other individual. So if you have some doubts, the best thing is to ask and communicate. And maybe you'll find out that you were wrong. But if you just judge and do not communicate and do not ask, you may have the wrong impression of the other person. And if you develop continuously the wrong impressions, eventually any feelings you may have had for that person will cool off. So giving the benefit of the doubt is always a good way of looking positively at everyone and at everything. And in this way, always staying in touch with that individual. Number 4, weigh the potential loss and gain in performing a mitzvah or a sin. Before you do something, you're about to commit a sin, what are you going to gain? A couple of minutes of enjoyment? But what is the long-term effect? A tremendous loss, a tremendous stain to the neshama. The other way around, you're given an opportunity to perform a mitzvah. You have an incredible chance now to do tzedakah, whatever it may be. And you miss out, that opportunity may never return. What are you about to gain in a few moments by writing a check, by giving a small donation, by saying hello, by treating the man nicely, even if you don't give him that much money? Well, what are you about to lose if you tell him, I don't have time for you right now? Or go find yourself a job. Or don't bother, these kind of words. Not only did you not do the mitzvah, you also hurt the man's feelings. So much can be lost in a couple seconds. And so much can be gained by doing the right thing. What does it take? Heveh mehashev. Calculate, deliberate. Take your time to think about a situation if you're in doubt. Hopefully we would like to do things automatically. Something that is good, we shouldn't have to hesitate, and we should do it right away. If something is bad, we should think 10 times about it before we do it. Maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe this is called cheating. Maybe this is called abuse, right? You have to really be careful and weigh your actions, whether they're good or not. What are you going to gain and what are you going to lose is one way of figuring out if this is really worth it. I may land in jail, chas v'shalom, if I do this. Yes, I have a chance to make $1 million. But what are the chances of getting caught? 50-50. Always 50-50, because you never know. Somebody may snitch. You may be somehow fall into a trap. You never know. There's so many things that can go wrong. And it's not like we plan. It's difficult to plan what the consequences will be, because we don't know what they will be. They can be anything. Always, therefore, think about your actions. If they're major decisions, think about them before you go ahead and make the decision. And number 5, don't postpone for tomorrow what you can do today. That is a famous saying in many languages. Don't say mañana, right? Don't say when I get married. When I finally settle down, that's when I will start keeping Shabbat. That's when I will keep a kosher kitchen. Don't push off anything that you can do today. If you can easily do it today, go ahead and do it, because tomorrow may never come around. The person does not know how long he will live, whether he will be around, whether the opportunity will arise again. If you can do it today, it's better not to push it off for tomorrow. A lot of times people push off too many things and they accumulate and they can never get around to it. It's not a good habit to procrastinate. It's not a good habit to push it off. Try to get things done as soon as possible. Libra, sign number 7 in the zodiac, is usually The beginning of begins on September 23 and runs to October 22nd. As I mentioned earlier, it's an air sign, belongs to the element of air, and they tend to be, of all the air signs and of all the signs, perhaps one of the most tactful and diplomatic. They're not rude, as we will see, and they're not as impulsive. They are charming, easygoing, sociable. However, one of their biggest problems, if not the biggest problem, is that they're indecisive and gullible. They like the finer things of life. They're very gentle. They don't like violence and injustice and brutishness. This is just a basic description of the sign belonging to the air element. As I said before, all the air elements are pretty much similar in this sense that they are social. They're not introverts. They're somewhat more extrovert. And they're not as impulsive and rash as the fire element. We're going to go through a little bit about the personality of the sign, how to recognize him. And as I always do it, we will go through the differences between a man and a woman, some advice for the children and for the boss if you're working for a boss who's a Libra. These individuals love people. They really enjoy being around people, but they don't like big crowds. The Libra is very gentle and hates to be rude, and he's excellent. He's actually very good in mediating quarrels, making peace. But even though he likes mediating and making peace, he will enjoy a good argument. He's good-natured and pleasant, but he will balk at taking orders. That he doesn't like. He can be intelligent and gullible. Does everybody here know what the word gullible means? Naive. People can take advantage of him easily. At the same time, even though he's intelligent, he can easily fall. They can talk a lot, but they're also good listeners. They talk a lot. The air signs, remember air, Geminis? Geminis talk more than almost anyone else. But Libras can also talk. The good thing about Libras is that they are good listeners. They are restless, but they rarely rush. Now you will notice as I'm going along the first few descriptions that there seems to be a contradiction in their character. And I point this out here. The apparent contradiction in characteristics has to do with a certain inconsistency in their nature. What is Libra? The scales. And this scales has its ups and downs until there's a balance. When they are perfectly balanced, they are sweet and gracious and charming. But that part of him is only half of the time. The other half of the time he can be annoying, quarrelsome, stubborn, restless, depressed, and confused. But suddenly there will be a perfect balance, and you won't notice anything. It all depends on the scales. Are they up or are they down? Many of them, try it out, look around, find all the Libras, you will find that many of them have a dimple on their face. And most of the time you will notice a smile or simply a pleasant expression. Remember last week we spoke about the Virgo? The Virgo, when you meet him, he seems to be worried about something. He's much more serious. He has something on his mind. He's trying to solve a problem. The Libra comes across when you first meet him, nice expression. He may even have a smile on his face when you first meet him. It's a whole different, that is how we recognize them. How do you recognize somebody? There are certain features, certain characteristics that give them away, depending how true of their mazal they are. So they tend to have a pleasant expression on their face. They also have, many of them have a sweet voice. He's the only one of the signs that can say, I hate you and I will punch you in the nose without raising his voice. I use this as an example because the statement is very, strong, but he will say it without raising his voice. In a conversation, he may at first monopolize the conversation, but he will listen with great interest. Because they like to talk, they like to convince, so they may take over the entire conversation. They want everybody to hear what they have to say. They're very good at giving advice to others, but they're also good listeners. So once they're done, they will listen to you. Others don't have the patience to listen. They will listen. Why will they listen? Because they really want to make the best decision. As you will see later on, they're very careful. They really want to make the best decision. So they will listen to what others have to say. When others are fighting, they will play the role of peacemaker and smooth everyone's ruffled feathers. But after they did that, they may turn around and start an argument on something else. You see the contradiction? Here they're trying to make peace. They're trying to calm everybody down. But later on they'll start an argument. But this is not an argument just to argue. This is a real debate about something that they think differently. They seek harmony in everything they do and in their surroundings. That's one of the most important characteristics of a Libra. Perhaps the most important part of their nature is, like the scale, they very much want harmony, balance in their life. No extremes, no fanaticism. Everything should be just right, everything should be in its place, just perfect. They're not the perfectionists like the Virgo, right? But they need to be calm. That's very important to them. You're going to see soon what happens when the Libra is not calm. He's a completely different type of person. They may easily indulge in excessive eating or indulge in other cravings. They have certain ta'avot, cravings. Sometimes they may appear lazy, but it's not true. A Libra is not lazy. What happens to them, as I point out over here, they can very much work days and weeks and become very, very busy for months. And suddenly, they will just sink in their chair, tired, and not want to know from anything and expect you to take control or expect somebody else to clean up. And they will be, at that point, they will be very, very hard to move. And even if you yell at them, you won't be able to budge them. You will not impress them. This is when the scale is down and needs to recuperate his strength. But once he regains his strength, he will go back to work as before, as usual. This is what you see sometimes, inconsistencies in the Libra, all depending on not the mood that he's in, but where the scale is. They come across as two different kinds of people, but they're not a dual sign like the Gemini. Gemini is a true dual sign, capable of doing two things at the same time, two different things at the same time. Remember that? The duality of the Gemini. Libra is not a dual sign. It all depends on the situation that he's involved and where the scale is. Is it down or up, depending how he's feeling. And the feelings have a lot to do with his surroundings. Is he happy with his surroundings? Is he happy with the people that he's with? That may make him a completely different person. His entire behavior and attitude of a Libra depends a lot if he's happy with the people he's around, if he's happy in the room, if he's happy in the work that he's doing. If not, he's a completely different person. In situations involving emotions and feelings, they can weep. I misspelled it over here. They can weep with overflowing sentiment. In other words, they can cry sometimes. But they can also turn sharply sarcastic, and a few minutes later they can be bright and cheerful again. See the scale going up and down? One moment they can be very sympathetic, overflowing with sentiment. Another moment very sarcastic, and the next they're bright and cheerful again. In health matters, they're usually well-balanced and physically fit. Their biggest health threat is overindulgence of some kind. Libras, and there are other signs, we'll get to that next week, Scorpio is one of them too, that have a problem sometimes with overindulgence in certain ta'avot and certain cravings. The Libra has a sweet tooth. So does the Taurus. The Taurus likes good food. The Libra likes chocolates and candies and snacks and certain things. And what that does to him is sometimes it leads to obesity or to stomach disorders. And if it's alcohol, chas v'shalom, that he has a problem with, I gave a few examples of what alcohol can do here. It can cause severe kidney and bladder disturbances. And even if they don't have too much alcohol, many of them get ulcers. All the time, Libra, I think, gets more ulcers than anybody else. And that has to do with their topsy-turvy, I don't know if I spelled it right, but topsy-turvy emotional makeup. You know what topsy-turvy? In other words, it's always not completely balanced. And because of that, they sometimes get ulcers. Their character has an equal amount of kindness, gentleness, fairness, and argumentativeness. In other words, they can be just as gentle and fair, and they're very, very fair, but at times they can be very argumentative. And you wonder, wait a minute, how could you be both? The Libra can be both. Usually the sign is either this or that. Remember the Sirius Virgo? I mean, they're pretty much consistent in how they are. Cancer does have their moods, but that's the problem with moods. So, as we will see with Pisces too, that you can blame on the mood. As long as they're in the good mood, they will pretty much be what they are. And Taurus is very predictable, pretty much. I mean, you can tell, that, he's either upset or he's either calm or, it's a Libra within a few minutes can change from being very fair and gentle and go to becoming argumentative. They can have a stubborn refusal to capitulate. They can be philosophically very logic, but the biggest problem is that they're indecisive. The biggest chisaron, chulsha, the biggest weakness of the Libra, of all the weaknesses he may have, is indecisiveness. They have a harder time making decisions than any other sign in the zodiac. They are masters, I call them masters of indecision. Concerning his argumentative style, קשה לו להחליט. ואני אסביר את זה עוד מעט. I'm going to explain why they have a hard time making decisions. Because everything has a reason. Now, as far as their argumentative style, they are capable of even arguing with you about your watch. Your watch is a few minutes off, and make an argument about that. I mean, they'll just pick an argument if they have something to say. No matter which subject you bring up, he will point out where you are wrong. Even if he's on your side, he can easily argue the other side. He may even change sides in the middle of the argument. By the way, Libras make excellent judges because they are fair. They look at all the sides. They don't rush to make a decision. Tell him you like something, he will begin to tell you what's wrong with it. Then if you criticize it, he will switch to praising it. Because he's able to see both sides, and he does not necessarily go along with what you have to say. He looks for something to criticize. He looks to see what's wrong with it, what's not perfect with it. Libra likes to remain fair and dreads the appearance of prejudice and unjust accusations. Because he wants to be fair. Remember, he wants harmony. He wants to get along with people. He doesn't want to have any enemies. He doesn't therefore want to be accused unjustly. He seeks the real truth. Libras and Aquarius are signs that very, very much believe in the truth. And they will always seek the truth and the right answer after weighing all the possibilities. However, in considering everything, he may drive others crazy. Because he's considering so many things, taking his time till he makes up his mind, that may drive others crazy. They will have a hard time making an instant decision. Therefore, they don't like to be hurried or pushed while they're deciding. Never try to hurry a Libra to make a decision. It's just impossible. He has to think about it. He has to be convinced that this is the right decision. In business, they're usually honest and would rather take the time to get it right. They are excellent in concentrating on deep subjects and have an affection for books. Many of them have libraries in their home. They love the harmony of sound and color and the proper use of words. What you basically see from all of this is that Libra is a sign that is usually calm, usually likes harmony, doesn't like fights, doesn't really want to be on the bad side of anyone, doesn't want to be accused unjustly. It's really, really fair. However, on the other side of them, they will argue and they will debate and they will try to see both sides of the coin because they are fair. Because of their fairness, one of their great strengths will be what I pointed out in the introduction, to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. They are more capable of doing that. They're able to see the two sides of the situation if they choose to. They're able to greet people with a happy countenance. Remember that point? Because they have a smile. They have a pleasant expression. So therefore, those points that I brought out, Rach Takaneh, being soft like a reed, that's very much applicable to them. Right? The other point was to think about what you're about to gain or lose. They will think. They always want to know what the right thing is. They don't want to make a mistake. But the point number 5 is to their detriment. Point number 5 that I made in the introduction was don't push off for tomorrow what you can do today. The problem with Libras is procrastination. And since they may procrastinate and may not decide right away what to do, they may push off things for another day. And that will result in missed opportunities. Let's see the difference between a Libra man and woman. A lot of the points that I make by men and women may repeat themselves. They may be similar to what you noticed before, but they just are listed for greater emphasis, especially if you're a single woman thinking of marrying a Libra or dating a Libra. You should be aware of certain things, or they shouldn't surprise you. A Libra man will give you plenty of advice. He has a perfect solution to all your problems, and he probably has an answer to every question. He can be cranky and rationalize everything. Remember, this is an air element sign, so there's rationalization. Can be sweet and gentle and will charm you. At times you may need to force him to make a move. Just be aware of that, because he may not be able to do it on his own. Making up his mind may be a strenuous task. To win you over, he will smile and make convincing arguments. He hates to hurt other people's feelings. But he doesn't realize that postponement is more unkind than an outright break of a relationship that has no chance. Let me explain this point. Anybody that has Libra in him, not necessarily a Libra sign, remember, there are other factors in the astrological map that influence one's personality. There's the hour, there's other influences from various planets. I didn't get too deeply into it, but there are other factors that contribute to the molding of the personality. The sun sign that we're discussing here, the sign of the month, is about 75 to 80%. Some of you who are in this room who may be Libras will say, wait a minute, this doesn't exactly fit me. That's the 20%, but 80% will fit you. That other 20% has to do with the hour you're born. The hour may be more aggressive, less tactful like the real typical Libra, or it might be a little bit more stubborn than the typical Libra, unyielding, depending if he has a Capricorn rising, if he has a Taurus rising, depending on the hour. Or he might be a very, very sentimental and mushy. Remember that word? Maybe very affectionate individual because he has Pisces in that chart, in his horoscope, or whatever you want to call it, in his mazal. Anybody that has a good amount of Libra and he's dating someone, what that will do to him is that it will make him very undecisive. And that, even though he's trying to not hurt people's feelings and to be nice and to give them a chance, what it really does is it's being unkind to the person. Instead of being kind and you're thinking you're giving him a chance, you're being unkind to him. Because if the situation is such that it doesn't really have a chance, you're better off breaking it up than continuing and dragging it on indefinitely. And that could happen with dates, with people who drag on dates for a long time. And the other person thinks they're interested. Tell them early on that it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Be straight to the point. But anybody who's a Libra cannot do that. He won't want to hurt the other person's feelings. He will try to be tactful. He will try to be fair. He will try to think about it. Think, wait. Before you know it, that other person is very upset. You're leading him on. So this is something that a Libra has to keep in mind, is that sometimes his indecisiveness is not helpful to other people. It could be hurtful. Because of his procrastination, he may miss opportunities. He has a problem with pushing things off only because he cannot make up his mind. In analyzing a situation, he will consider only the hard facts and will not dig into the emotions that may be beneath. This is another very important point about Libras. Libras don't want to be your psychologist. They can give advice, they can rationalize, they're very mental, sikhli. But to dig deep into the emotions and the feelings of the individuals, they don't go that deep. Not every sign. Scorpio can go deep, very deep, into an individual. They're very good in hypnosis. Did I pronounce that right? Hypnosis. Okay, maybe the British say it differently? Okay, it makes no difference. Anyway, some are deeper than others. Some are more superficial. A Gemini is a bit more superficial on the surface. Libra wants to be fair, wants to be balanced. He likes harmony. That's where he specializes. You know which president was a Libra? Jimmy Carter. You may not like too many things about him, but he succeeded in making peace between Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin. Now, you may not call it a peace. You can call it whatever you want. You may not agree with it. But they were almost ready to give up until he actually convinced them. Only a Libra can do that. Only a Libra can take a Capricorn like Sadat and a Leo like Menachem Begin and make peace between them.
How about the book that you wrote later on?
Yeah, that's something else. He's been accused of not being fair and being prejudiced. He feels terrible that they're accusing him of that. Whether he's a friend of Israel, I really don't know, because I don't know him personally. I mean, all I know is that he grew peanuts. What does that have to do with making peace? I don't know. How much that tells me about him knowing to run a country, I don't know. And I didn't hear that he was such a great man when it came to dealing with Israel, with the Jews. Maybe, maybe not. I have to play Libra now and give him the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. I've heard too much negativity about him. And it's possible, after all, we are sensitive as Jews. We've been persecuted. Not too many people like us. So being that he's a non-Jewish Libra, and he's an American, and he grew up in the South, maybe he's not too friendly to the Jews. Maybe. I don't know for sure 100%. But it's possible. But anyway, he definitely was good in what he did, in making peace, in bringing enemies together, in pointing out the values, the pros and cons of everything. He was able to do that. But a Libra will not go too deep. When you're talking about emotions, this is not the person to look for sympathy or empathy. You can confide in him with faith because you can trust him. He's fair, but may suffer when he misses sensing your most inner needs. You have certain needs. You're emotional. Talking about it for a woman, you want him to read your mind and dig into your heart. This is not the type of person. You'll be hurt when you think that he didn't figure this out on his own. He didn't ask. That's not him. He wants to please, but may not satisfy those with silent hopes. He will please it in his own way. Everybody has a different way of pleasing. Remember the Virgo, their devotion. They are devoted. That's the way they show their affection. They're very devoted. Some signs can be very devoted, but they won't be as demonstrative, and they won't show it necessarily as much, but they're very devoted, 100% devoted. Libras want to please. It's not so much the devotion, it's to please, make everybody happy, but they will not be able to touch those who are very, very emotional and sensitive. He can truly love someone, no doubt about it, but does not possess the empathy to deal with moods. So a Libra with somebody who's very moody might be a difficult match. He doesn't have the kelim, he doesn't have the tools. Hashem did not give this mazal the tools to deal with somebody who's moody. An Aquarius? Oh yes, put an Aquarius with anybody who's nervous or moody, and Aquarius has what it takes to deal with all the sick people. Sick in the minds, in other words. They have the patience, they have the desire, they're altruistic. They want to help, they want to fix the world. Aquarius are very, very good in helping if they make a decision to help. They have the tools. And people who are nervous, as soon as you put an Aquarius next to them, they calm down for some reason. And Wizat Hashem will get to Aquarius later on. They have that ability. And that's interesting that they're an air sign, and they're the only air sign. Aquarius is the only air sign that can deal with feelings too. Libra and Gemini, no way in the world. Impossible. They will please, they will be fair, but they cannot dig too deep into the feelings of somebody else. If you are seeking sympathy in telling him how somebody hurt you, his first question will be, what did you do to him? See, I put here an example of what reaction you can expect. He's sikhli, he's mental. Oh, you got hurt, then what did you do? What went wrong? Because we're not talking about empathy over here. Does not approve of gossip. Lashon Hara is out. He's very strong in giving everybody the benefit of the doubt and being fair. So if you are talking Lashon Hara about somebody, if we're talking about a pure Libra here, he won't take it. He won't tolerate accusing someone of an injustice if you cannot prove it. He frowns on hasty judgment of character. He's a good judge. He's fair. Usually clean and orderly, usually. But don't hang stockings on the shower rod. In other words, this is something that may bother him. He looks for, if the color of the paint, Libra, if he doesn't like the paint color, he will make a point of telling you that he's very unhappy in this room. Certain things bother him very much. They're very sensitive to the color, to the way things are organized in the house. And therefore, he doesn't want to see things laying around. He may be sloppy, but he will expect you to pick up his socks.
But if it's the opposite, he's clean or orderly, he's not sloppy.
Exactly, but he can be sloppy. Sometimes a Libra can be sloppy. As I was explaining before you, when you were not here, it's depending on the scale. Sometimes it's down and sometimes it's up. He can sometimes be like that. Sometimes. But he doesn't like it. Until he will expect somebody else to pick up his socks. He's not so tight on a budget, right? Remember Virgo last week? Penny pinchers, more economical. Libra is okay. He will spend on what brings beauty and happiness, and most of them are not stingy at all. Will want his home to be hospitable, but not noisy. They can't stand noise. Will be good with children, but may debate with them. He's fine with children. They can charm, they can teach, they can advise, no problem. But the problem is, sometimes they can debate. Will be relieved when you take the initiative. Remember, he has a hard time making a decision, so he has great sense of relief when you take the initiative and you make the decision for him. With the Libra, I had to add a second page because, let me see here. That was the second page, right? Okay, yeah. Libra woman. Going out with a Libra woman, then expect her to air her opinions quite often, especially when sensing in debate. She will be talkative. It's an air element sign, right? So they're going to talk. And they're going to tell you what they think about everything. Will reason and not be stubborn. Her opinions are usually directed with tact. This is not an Aries or a Leo or a Sagittarius where they're going to be untactful to the point. Libras are very tactful. They can be very diplomatic. Your opinion will be considered and respected. This is one of the good things about Libra women. There are very few, but there are some, mazalot, where the woman will give the utmost respect to her husband. I mean, make that a priority. I mean, there are, Baruch Hashem, I mean, every good woman, of course, will respect her husband, and Eshet Chai Mimsa, obviously. But Libras make that a point. A Libra woman, her husband is priority number one. And what's interesting about this is that with other signs, the children could be more important to the woman than her husband. It's possible. With the Libra woman, her husband will be more important than the children. So if you're thinking of dating a Libra woman, this is a good, Libra women are known for that. Husband, kol hakavod, all the respect to him. Will like to work, and the reason why they like to work is they like the extra cash, so they can buy some things, some of their cravings. They love beautiful clothes and will have a good taste in decorating their home. She very much needs a man to love and respect. Now you might think, wait a minute, everybody does. No. Remember last week, a Virgo could stay single, especially the Virgo man. Not as much need of company as Libra. Libra needs companionship, needs a partner. Many Libras you will see, the head of a company, they probably have a partner. You know, a man has a partner. Or if it's a woman, she has somebody else helping her out. Libra is one of those signs that cannot do things on their own so much. They need a partner, and when it comes to marriage, they very much look forward to it. They don't stay single too much. They hate to stay home alone. They're intellectual with good powers of analysis, and they're built for teamwork. They're affectionate and dependable. And she can enjoy, of all the 12 signs, have you ever heard the term tomboy? Yeah. There are certain signs that can be tomboys. What a tomboy is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they can fill in a man's job. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what it means?
I feel like they're a man.
Yeah. Well, how would you describe that?
Tomboy is an expression that's used for a child that's a girl, not for an older woman, not for a woman. But
Okay, not used for an older person, but what is it? What are we describing? Are we describing a girl that is pretty much playing the role of a boy? Libra women can chop logs with their husbands for the fireplace. They can go out and actually do that. Whereas the more feminine Pisces, Taurus woman, Cancer, they will not do those kind of things. Haven't you seen women in certain jobs? You say, what is she doing working for the water and power? Climbing up the poles? You know, I've seen that. A woman climbing up the poles. What is she doing up there in the pole?
they generally live in West Hollywood.
What? That could be too. But anyway, there are certain signs that have that ability to do these kind of things. A Libra has that ability to be able to work with her husband and do these kind of things. You know where you see this? Go check out a book from the library about how to sandblast your house, or how to paint your house, or how to do anything. And you will go through the pictures, and you will see a woman is involved in doing that. You know, yeah, a Libra, probably possibly a Libra woman. Likes to talk, but is also a good listener. Takes good care of the children. May nibble on sweets. Remember, they like chocolates. Her home will tend to be neat, and meals will be served on time. And she can be tough and soft at the same time. Remember the scale? You basically have the two possibilities. Toughness and soft at the same time. Okay, advice for Libra children. Libra children tend to be quiet and calm. Usually. They're kind-hearted and fair. A lot of the qualities that you see in a child, you will notice in adults too. You can tell easily what the child will be like when he's already 3, 4, 5 years old. A lot of the characteristics are identifiable. So the Libra fairness and his calmness is already noticeable. They can't decide what to eat first. Some of them will even have a hard time deciding from what side of the bed to get up. Yeah. Sometimes they have to think about what to dress, what to put on, which shoe to put on first, the right or the left. You'd be surprised. Yeah. Some of them are really have a hard time deciding, even small things. Therefore, my advice is never give him a choice. He hates making decisions. You make the choice for him.
You're describing a sign that's mentally ill.
No, how's it shalom?
Schizophrenic.
Not schizophrenic.
The way I hear the description.
No, it's not schizophrenic. He just has a hard time deciding, and it's not about every little thing in life. But when it's a tough decision, it's just sometimes easier for somebody else to make the decision for him.
It's the worst thing in your life.
No, it's a beautiful thing when you're weighing the pros and cons in a case, to trying to be fair and analytical. You need this kind of a quality. But the problem is that this good quality of weighing everything is a problem sometimes when you can't make a decision. You can't decide. Whereas other signs will make the decision on the spot. An Aries, on the spot. He won't think too much about it. They don't think. They just do. They just act. And that's why they make mistakes. A Libra does not want to make mistakes. Yes, no, yes, no. What are the pros, what are the cons? And he may take a week to decide if to do whatever it is you're doing. You don't have the patience and the time to wait for him, right? Depending what sign you are. Right? So that's how it is. So some people understand it and get along with it and appreciate it, and some people don't have the patience for him. So with a child, don't give him a choice. Don't give him too many choices. Make the decision for him. He needs peace and quiet. That's, you may say, oh, everybody needs peace and quiet. But remember, Libra, more than anybody else, needs peace and quiet. That's why I put this here. He will very much be affected by noise and the lack of harmony in his surroundings. They tend to be good students, but he may argue with his teacher once he's old enough and smart enough. They will be the ones to argue with the teachers. Now, Aquarians can also argue with the doctor and with the teacher, because Aquarians think they know better. Libra simply will argue because he likes to argue. He wants to make a point. He knows something that perhaps the teacher did not say, and he will point it out to him. He's not critical like the Virgo. Remember the criticism of the Virgo, because the Virgo is a perfectionist, and the Virgo notices every little detail, so he has to point it out. Whereas the Libra is not noticing details. He's intellectual, he's broad-minded, he's fair, he weighs everything, he wants to take a look at it from another angle, and that's what he will argue, and he will not take things at face value. Don't scream at him. Not at a Libra, do it gently. You can't, there are some signs that you have to be very, very gentle, very soft with. That's one of them is Libra. Advice for the Libra boss: restless and full of outgoing activity. You know what restless means? It's not that he lacks in patience. He's just not always calm, and he's eager to get, to do something. He has a problem, however, deciding about it. So he's restless, but he can't make up his mind. He has a gentle manner to him, and because of his indecisiveness, he may need a push. Some people, as a boss, will not need a push. They don't want to be pushed. They don't want to be told by their employees what to do. A Libra may need a push. An employee who is working for a Libra may tell his boss, listen, we got to go and do it this way. He has a need to communicate with others. If you're working for a Capricorn, he can work by himself. He doesn't have to hear about anyone. Taurus too. Taurus a little bit less than Capricorn, but Libra needs to communicate with others. He's not a loner. He's intelligent, persuasive, and a debater. Loves to argue. Persuasive is a very interesting quality that Libras have, is that when they're trying to convince you, remember Gemini, also an air element, he can be not necessarily persuasive, but he can be convincing. A Gemini knows how to convince because he can manipulate the words. But the problem with Gemini is that he may not always be telling you the truth. He will sell you a car that's a lemon. A Gemini. He will tell you it's good. That's all you need. And you don't really need it. A Gemini is capable of that, being able to embellish things and play with words. A Libra is not so much playing with words. He's fair, he's honest, he's truthful. He'll simply have very good command of words, be charming, and somehow persuade you and convince you in a logical way. That's one of their strengths, one of their kohot. That's where they're excellent in debates. We're talking about a debate after the Libra has exposed himself and became familiar with the subject. Obviously, he has to know what subject we're talking about. If you hear on the radio or somewhere a good debate, somebody who knows how to debate, he's a Libra. Does anybody know in Israel who's the best debater on TV? Yeah. What do you think he is? A Libra. Yeah. Now, the newspapers like to call it a different word. They like to call him telegenic. Have you ever heard the word telegenic? That he does well on TV. Shtuyot, that's all not. What do you mean, telegenic? He's simply charming and persuasive. Telegenic. Yeah. Is he right or wrong? That's a whole different story. Is he right or wrong? But he will persuade you into whatever he thinks he's right. Articulate, yeah. Good command. Remember, Libra is air. Air, good command of words, polished, and he has tact. What a good combination. Good command of words, articulate, like you say, and tact. Charming, with a smile. That's it. I don't know if he'll become a prime minister. That may not be enough in Israel, right? But he definitely will come across as convincing. He's fair, takes everything into consideration. The problem is he takes everything too much into consideration, and he may not do the right thing. You got to do what's right. No, if he's the prime minister, he's going to consider everything, and he should maybe not consider too much. Just do what is right, what the Torah says, not what everybody else says. Don't be loud, vulgar, and opinionated around him. He doesn't like people who are loud and vulgar. Won't expect you to be his slave. That's good. There are certain signs that will make you work very, very hard. They want to get every penny out of you. They can be very demanding. I'm not going to tell you which signs they are, but he's not that type. He's fair. He won't push or nag you or betray your trust. However, he does need your cooperation. And that is the last point for Libra, needing the cooperation. What does that mean? Because he has certain indecisiveness problems, because he's looking for harmony, because he's looking to communicate with people, to seek their advice, to make the right decisions, that he needs your cooperation. He cannot do the job all by himself. There are individuals who can work by themselves completely without too much outside help. Libra, as intelligent as he may be, as analytical as he may be, with great strength of concentrating and figuring something out, because he weighs so much the pros and cons of everything, he may not be able to make a decision. And that's very important. For a boss to be able to make decisions is very important. So he does need the cooperation of his workers. And as I pointed out before, various times, every single sign has ma'alot and chisonot, has strengths and weaknesses. And part of our tikkun, part of what our mission entails in this world, is figuring out what our weaknesses are, getting to know ourselves a little bit better, and in this way, trying to, or attempting our best to correct those weaknesses that we all have. By working on our weaknesses, by emphasizing or maximizing our strength, our greater potential, we will be able to get along better with people, we will be able to achieve a lot more, we will be able to feel better about ourselves and others. A lot in life will depend on our midot. Midot meaning the nature, the characteristics that we possess, the good and the bad. So much depends on it. You get along with people? Do you have a good relationship with your children, with your spouse? Just about everything depends on midot, on character. And even though we are endowed with certain characteristics, it does not mean that we can't control them. And I need to repeat that time after time, because people think that that's it. You're a Libra, then you need to be like that. You're a Taurus, you're a Virgo, this is the way you're going to be. Yes, you are the way you are. You cannot change your inner nature, but you can control it, you can refine it, you can make wise decisions that go contrary to your nature. And how do you do that? The best way, if I can say it just in a couple words, to control yourself and to overcome those weaknesses is to develop a second nature. How do you develop a second nature? By having the right habits. A habit can become a second nature. It can become, if they're bad habits, they can become a second bad nature. But if you develop good habits, then hopefully that will help you with your real nature, because that will act as a second nature. Somebody who's stingy because of his mazal, very economical, ultra economical, then if he trains himself to be giving by having bitachon in Hashem, that whatever I give anyway will come back to me, everything that I give is not going to hurt my parnasah. Developing the right bitachon in Hashem, that will help him with midat or with the mitzvah of tzedakah. It takes a certain amount of understanding and a certain amount of emunah and bitachon to be able to overcome many midot. The same thing with kas, anger. How do you overcome anger? Just a quick example. Well, if he yelled at me or cursed at me or did this to me, it was meant to be. In other words, he may not have done the right thing, but if I had to hear it and I was exposed to it and I had to experience it, that means I had to deal with it. What am I going to blame him? I'm going to stoop to his level and yell at him and criticize it? It doesn't. What am I going to do? I'm just going to be doing the same thing he did. I'm going to be better than him. I'm going to absorb it, and I'm not going to react. It's very difficult. It's easier said than done. And the husband and wife, of course, have the ultimate challenge of trying this out. If you're married, you will have many, many opportunities to work on your midot. Because as I mentioned earlier, the one who knows you best is your wife, and the one that you have to contend with more on a regular, schedule is your wife, much more than anybody else. So that's why the best or the worst of an individual can come out at home. Whereas on the outside, everybody's, oh, he's the greatest man in the world. He's so friendly and so gentle, and he's always great. And it could be true. Where is the real test? The real test of who you are is in your home. That is where the children are. That is where your spouse is. That is where all the frustrations are going to be vented. That is the greatest opportunity of all to see, to test yourself if you have become stronger or weaker. And as the rabbis tell us, the ultimate strength is the one who controls his temperament, the one who controls his nature, the one who controls the animal within him. As the rabbis tell us, Eizo gibor hakovesh et yitzro. Thank you very much. And Bezat Hashem will continue next week with Mazal Akrav, Scorpio.